Good evening. Welcome to the Groseal Township Community Recreation Commission meeting, February 23, 2012. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of tonight's agenda. Any additions, deletions, or changes? Anybody?
Yeah,
Anybody?
Mr. Chair, so are we asking to remove item 7 from the agenda this evening?
Second?
Uta, second. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. As it stands, any other additions, deletions, or changes?
Can we just add that item 7 is being removed because Mr. Moreau is not present?
So noted. Any other changes? All right, as the agenda stands right now, the removal of number 7 because of the absence of Moreau. All those in favor of tonight's agenda say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of the minutes of January 28, 2012. Any additions, deletions, or changes? Otherwise, I need a motion to approve, please. Ethel? Uta, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, public comment? Nobody here. All right, chairperson's report. The Groseal Parkway and East River Road ending. There's some new information on that. Uta, pass over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, I just wanted to update. Tim asked me if I could give us just a quick synopsis. This afternoon, the steering committee for the Parkway Road End met. Briefly, Peter Kantz, Joe Porcerelli, Dale Riem, Gary Jones, myself, and Tim Rooney. We have set another date, actually 2 dates. One is for a cleanup, a tentative date for a cleanup on March 31st. And a second date we have set for a study session with the Township Board. Again, tentative. We still need to get the Township Board invited. And that would take place on March 22nd in advance of the Recreation Commission meeting. So that would, if it happens, it'll be posted. And you'll definitely hear about it. It'll be on Thursday, March 22nd from 6:30 to 7:30. What we are going to do is present to the board a history of the process that we have followed since acquiring the property from the county. Dale will also give us a synopsis of the feedback that we had from our public input sessions. And then we're going to give a breakdown of some bullet points. We have been talking about public safety, road and roadside parking, and basically 3 main points of interest to the community are access, that rules are in place, and cleanup, access, and rules. I'm sorry, I misread my notes. So some of the things that we're going to try to put in place at the study session are working with an Eagle Scout project. This Eagle Scout has found a mentor, a licensed builder, who is willing to mentor him on the building of a staircase, which is planned to be placed over the existing staircase. But again, all that has to go through proper planning and approval. In terms of rules, we are working on a use ordinance, and Dale and Tim will be spearheading that along with Peter Kantz. And basically, what we're understanding from the residents at this point is that the desire is to have access to the waterfront, but to have a very simple, basic use and soft use. And so what we're looking to do is outline some hours and outline some accepted uses. And then from there, we wanted to start setting some calendar dates to see what the next steps were. So that's kind of the direction this is taken. Tim invited some 80-plus community groups and individuals to take part in the public input, and it was very well attended, I believe, and well received. And I think generally everyone would like to keep it simple for now, and I think that's what we're going to be recommending to the board, and we'll see at that point where the process goes. So essentially, as we outlined today, we covered stage 1, or phase 1, and the next phases will be determined by the community as we go.
Question, determination of who's going to be in charge of it. It's going to be like, is it going to be set to a department? Is it going to be a standalone committee for this? It's TBD, basically, or?
Yeah, it's still to be determined. Right now, as the steering committee, our job is simply to get the ball rolling, get the ball started. And I think that's something then that we can take to the board, or that the board will bring forward to say where should it go. Some of the suggestions have been made that it do remain with the Community Recreation Commission, or I shouldn't say remain, that it should come to the Community Recreation Committee. But again, that hasn't been determined. Other suggestions have been made about a standalone commission or committee.
Or DPS.
Or DPS, or potentially public safety. So, but again, that's still fairly wide open. I think our main objective is to make sure that the stakeholders feel like they are still a part of the process. I know members of the Historical Society expressed a desire to be on the steering committee, but what we're hoping to do is, as we move forward, is make them partners in the whole process, and much like we do here at the Rec Commission, where we give all the parties access to voice complaints, to make suggestions, and so forth. So I think that's still a work in progress, but we don't want to leave anybody out, and I think that's really important, that we don't want to leave anybody out.
Will you give that important date out again, the next date that's the important?
So the study session with the Township Board will be March 22nd from 6:30 to 7:30. There will not be any public input at that study session, but the public is welcome to listen. And we have reserved this boardroom so that that meeting can be televised, and so that there is room for the public to attend. Then the next cleanup session is tentatively dated for March 31st, when we're hoping that the weather will be better, and we still have quite a bit of cleanup to do on the site, but again, that's tentative.
All right, any questions for Uta? Anything to add? All right, thank you, Uta. Update on inline outdoor skating rink. As hopefully the public is aware, Tim was able to procure $50,000 Wayne County grant towards the inline outdoor skating rink. The class of 2010 did, through their fundraising the last couple of years, or I should say the last senior year for them, close to $10,000. But we are going to be in fundraising mode with that group and ourselves. To gather at least, probably we're going to need about maybe actually $50,000 more actually, if we start thinking about it, if we start bells and whistles that we go on here. And I know you wanted to mention about some opportunities and maybe to even achieve that goal quicker.
Right. Like I mentioned at the last meeting, remember the new recreation passport, you pay a little extra on your driver's license. That first round was this past fall. They announced in November. And those, I'll just read the program. The object of the program is to provide funding to local units of government for the development of public recreation facilities. This includes the development of new facilities and the renovation of old facilities. And local units of government are obviously eligible. And the grant deadline is in April. And they range from $7,000 to $45,000. They're smaller grants. So we have 60 right now. We think to have a really solid facility, we need about $100,000. So this would be something, maybe we go with a $20,000 match and 20 from our community fundraising to complete it. I don't think you want to get overly aggressive with the amount. We're a
Right.
smaller community, but if we could get an extra $25,000 to match what the community's going to be doing over the next 6 to 8 months, we'd have it done.
Right, and this is one of those things where money from on top of money is all good like this. So, this will be a 50-50 match then for this passport?
I'm let me think on that. Let me see here,
If
eligibility.
we come up, if we say we get,
5% of the match required from applicants. It's in the second paragraph.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I knew there was a match, but I wasn't sure if it was 75, 25, or
Okay.
50-50, but,
It says at least 25%.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. And like I said, we wouldn't want to ask for 75, possibly go for, 50-50.
Okay.
And I think that would have a better sell to it.
So this is a very important thing, I think, for the residents, with kids. I know there's a lot of hockey moms and dads, and everybody will enjoy this summer and winter. So I really think this is something that everyone will enjoy. Everyone's saying they got nothing for the kids to do. We got stuff at Water's Edge. Basketball, volleyball in the summer, inline skating hopefully soon. You got the golf course. You got down there the boats. What do I call it?
Marina.
Arena.
Thank you. Arena. So come down. All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to say, though, in the information that Tim did give us, the application deadline is April 2nd. They will not notify of award until early in November.
Right, and I think our fundraising is going to, the golf outing we hope to have, we're still working on the initial, that'll hopefully take place in September, I believe, right?
Yeah, we're
So,
hoping for mid-September.
one of those things that comes together again, but at least going into that doesn't say we can't have the cement pad in place.
Right. I
Oh,
think we-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. We start something there. All right. Any more questions on the skating rink?
Yes.
Yes.
How and to whom do you make your contributions?
Through Tim or
Yeah.
to Ann? Or
Yeah.
both, right?
Right.
You
But
you can,
actually, I can get that information to you because there is a separate fund set up too by the community fundraising group that Deb
Right.
had mentioned.
And maybe make that a link on our webpage, or at least give that information on the webpage.
Yep, that's
yeah,
a
that's
good
an
point.
excellent idea. I wonder if we should do something like that, definitely have a webpage, you know what I mean, right?
If you're interested in, making a contribution to this, contact so-and-so.
Yeah.
And I was thinking specific to Water's Edge, I noticed in a few other communities now, they're doing the little things you can spend $5 and put your name up. Maybe we could do that at Water's Edge, not spread it around the entire community, but it's unique to that facility. We might be able to generate some funds that, because a lot of the hockey players and basketball players
Yeah.
and volleyball, they all, they have a tendency to hang out there after their events, some of them,
And,
not all of
yeah,
them. so.
and if anybody own any businesses, I mean, I'm sure we can start maybe a plan for selling space on the boards, you know what I mean?
Well, actually, I don't want to draw this out, because I know you guys know I can talk. But I went to a conference with Lorinda Beneteau from the Community Development last Thursday. It was called Transportation Bonanza 3. And the two big topics of conversation were smart and complete streets, which gives a lot of good news about bike paths and complete streets, and some bad news. But also they focused on safe routes to school. But my point is that in putting together, in some communities in California, they're creating these joint use agreements, which is pretty much what Tim is already doing within the schools and other organizations. And I know we have interest from people in naming fields and things like that. One of the ways that this offers is that when you do create a site or have somebody donate money toward improvements, that you can put up a kind of a wall, a sign wall that says, donated by, or with help, done by, with the help of. And these don't have to be expensive signs so that we're spending a lot of money on signs, but just
Some kind of recognition.
some kind of recognition so that the donors, the sponsors, even from $25 and up or so forth, feel like there's a bit of recognition for what they've done. And it's not something like actually going out and name the field after somebody. It's simply recognizing that this business or this individual or this organization played a role in making this happen. And I think this is one of those examples where, we're going to have fencing up, we're going to have boards up, that gives us places where we can locate some of these thank you notes.
Right.
Excellent. All right. So I think we're moving on to that. Okay, selection of the commission officers. All right, we're getting down to the year end. We're going to be having the year end or budget end for the year and stuff like this. So I'd like to know if anybody would like to nominate anybody for chair of this commission.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Walt Ketcher to continue serving as chair of the Community Recreation Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ann? Okay, well, thank you. I will accept. Any discussion on this? Anyone else?
You have done a fabulous job,
Yes.
and
Thank
I
you.
think
Definitely.
we're unanimous in that, and I didn't want you to get a chance to,
Do we have a nomination for vice chair?
Bill?
Bill?
Well, then, I'd like to nominate Bill Morrow vice chair.
Is there a second? Okay, so we got Mike and Ann. All right. Any discussion on Bill? I'd like to say that he's helped me out numerous times in covering everything.
Me
He does a
too.
great job with the golf and stuff like that, so it's a solid choice. Okay. I need a nomination for our secretary. Any nominations?
Nominate Lee.
No, you're reappointed already, baby. So is there a second on that, Ethel? Who nominated Leah?
I did.
Is there a second for Leah?
Ann? I think Ann gave a
Ann
second.
did? Okay, Ann. All right, any discussion for our secretary, Leah?
Well done.
Yeah, I want to say that too. I mean, all I can say is when Leah's not here, it's misery. You do a great job, and I think you're underappreciated big time. I mean, you do a fabulous job.
I agree 100%.
Now,
Thank you.
I know there are no more nominations to be made, but I want to thank all the other members of this commission, too. They all work very hard, and they all have their roles, and
Absolutely.
it's an honor to work with everybody here.
Absolutely. Okay, so on the nominations, all right, for chair, Walt, vice chair would be Bill, and secretary is going to be Leah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. All right. Mr. Timothy Rooney, whose day is almost upon us, right? A couple more weeks for you? St. Patty's Day?
My anniversary?
Really, what were you doing there?
Oh, yeah.
Recreation.
Double
Director
whammy for
report.
me. Okay. I'll
Is it right? A couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
combine the first two items, facility update and budget update. I don't want to get too involved tonight. This afternoon, I met with Uda and I, well, actually, Uda's on the subcommittee with the Township Board to kind of rough out the edges on the budget before it goes to the entire board. So I gave a presentation on the Water's Edge, Recreation, Festival, and Farm. And that gets tweaked a little bit as you go through the process. And then what I'll do is I will send out copies to the commission before it goes to the big board. And if you have, I keep saying the big board, the entire board. And if you have questions, I'll kind of do a little narrative highlight sheet that I give them the night we go. Well, I usually Walt attends that with me, what to look for, what projects. And and Uda had told you, the annual meeting is,
The annual meeting
Sorry.
is March 26th,
Yeah.
here at Township Hall. I believe it begins at 5:30.
The reception.
The reception,
and then 6:30 is
and
the
then
annual.
6:30 is the meeting, and 7:30-ish
Board.
is the regular board meeting.
Right. So I will update you before it goes to the entire board. I think that's the March 5th date, and then there's a few weeks after that as things settle and the annual meeting comes up. The reason I want to bring these up, I don't want to miss anything. I did list some objectives and projects for the coming year, and if you see anything in there that I don't know if I can change those now, but they go with the master plan and projects we didn't get or didn't complete this last year we had hoped to because of funding or something like that. Some of the areas that I'm looking at within this budget would be drainage along the rec building. These are farm items. Fence repairs along East River. Finished fence painting. We did quite a bit last summer, not as much this year, and then we'll started over again. Ground cover for the play area. Shrubs, something needs to be done with the dead shrubs along the entryway into the rec building there. Water's Edge, there's the parking lot that we've been trying to get done, but that's funded and approved, just waiting for good weather. Frost-free hydrant in the marina. There's a lot of yearly repairs, and Mike's going to touch on that when he gets into his committee report, things that I've included in the budget that we do typically every year, but they might change a little bit. The pool boiler, that's going to range from $10,000 to $15,000, I believe. 21 years old, we got good life out of that. The volleyball court, we need to set up a plan to get that relocated, or that's all going to be happening pretty quick with the skate rink. We need an ADA chairlift for the pool. There's a new law coming into effect. Drainage, Pond 3.
Wait, go back. What's the new law that's going in for the ADA?
The lift. Most of your public pools are going to be required to have a handicap lift, ADA required lift. And I'm hopeful we can get that through the block grant program, reprogram money that we didn't use. So, and that was in that budget presentation today. It took us a couple years to paint the outside of the building. We're going to start the rock and mortar, along the base of the pro shop and restaurant this year. Repairs to the showers and the bathhouse is not major, but make sure they're safe and clean. Clearing brush, and this is Playscape, the project Ann's been working on. It's very important, is the clearing of the brush and fence repairs over at the Playscape. And school, the play equipment, hopefully another block grant project. The use of the East River playground that we put in with block grant money has changed because of the younger kids using it for the daycare versus the grade school age kids when it was put in. Or it's now become more apparent that's what we're required after an inspection. And we were responsible for that, and it's something I think we can handle through that ADA money, which we've done for the schools in the past. So that's about it. But I just wanted the commission to be confident they will get that information before it goes to the entire board. So if there's anything that really concerns you, I want to make sure that you're included in that process.
Well, I think that we're going along pretty good, because our whole idea was to maintain what we have, our assets. Anything that's new, it's really becoming because of the grants and from volunteer work, fundraising. So we're maintaining what we have. I asked that the chairs of the subcommittees have your little wish list or something too about anything you think that needs repair in your areas or something of major importance. I know for a long time we've been talking about in Mike's area was the pump out. How was our pump out?
That was replaced.
That was replaced. It's all done?
Works great. It's in its third year. It's working
Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
But you're raising something, I think Tim brought it to the board, and the officers agreed that we did up the amount budgeted for maintenance at the Water's Edge Marina for this coming year.
It was a little lower last year, and we've upped it by, I think, about $5,000 to $6,000.
We never did gravel last year, did we?
The only thing we did on gravel was the approach to the docks.
Okay. We're going to be needing that. All right. Ann, did you want to say something? Ethel? No? Anybody?
I had a question, Tim. What is the date that you submit the budget to the township board?
It happens in phases. Like there's a rough one that goes in, and that just happened with the officers of the board, the treasurer, the clerk, and the supervisor, with the finance director and the township manager. And then the chairperson and rec director go in and meet with the entire board over those same budgets again, and you go through item by item if they want to, and you discuss. If they have questions, you right on through from Water's Edge to the farm to the rec department, that type of thing. That's March 5th, and that's open to the public. I think it's March 5th, but it'll be publicized. And then from that point on, if there's any adjusting, you do that after that meeting. Finance director updates the board, that type of thing, township manager, and then there's the annual meeting where the community sees the document.
Which is March 26th?
I think, yes.
Okay. Good, thanks.
And I think there was a study session set. I'm trying to find the date, and I may not have put this in my calendar. I recall that we set a...
Hey, don't we have a meeting and we go up in here? That's what we're talking about, right? That's...
I'm sorry, the study session is for this Monday, and it has to do with something else. I thought we had set a budget there's always a public hearing for the budget.
Right, and I'm not sure, I think Ann, I thought she said something like March, I don't want to give the date out because I'm
Right.
not, but it's always advertised in the, Cameron on cable.
Yeah, it'll be pretty close to the board meeting.
I
right?
think you're right, it is, I think it's March 5th. Well, we'll see.
Last year, for the first time, it was televised. Used to be it was open to the public, but you go in the large conference room and go over, but the board wanted it in front of the
Yeah, 'cause we
TV.
have it over here.
Yep, and it was not live and repeated on TV, so that was a new,
Are they anticipating doing the same thing again? Probably.
I haven't heard, probably, I would think so.
All right, so anything more on your facility and budget then? I think
Nope, that was just what I wanted to touch on tonight, because it's going to get busy over the next month on that.
Anything on programs you got here listed, or?
The big things coming up are like special events. Apple's going to check on, or touch base on one, and then we have like the Easter event. Those are things that are not in progress right now with winter, like you have your aerobics and your after-school. Those are going right now, but we're in the planning phase for summer with the pool and golf and summer camps. So that'll start coming out over the next month.
Okay. All right, any questions for Tim? All right, moving on. Any new business? Anyone have any new business they want to enter into? All right, subcommittee updates. Open Space and Greenways Committees update, Shelkey. Any updates? Would you like to share?
The Township Board had a tie vote, which means they rejected the proposal that had been worked on by the board for a policy for the trails through the open space, and so by Robert's rules, we have no policy for trail proposals. So I guess any future trail proposals from the community would have to go directly to the board.
I guess that's it.
Let's see. We have 2 potential dates for doing some more tree removal, assuming that the ground freezes. The first one is March 10th, and the second one is March 17th. And there's a Boy Scout whose name I've forgotten, but he has a project going to identify trees unique to the island, and he has done his fundraising, and he will make a report to the Open Space Greenways Commission at our next meeting, the 1st of March. And finally, I guess that's it.
As far as the trails, I know that they did a lot of work with that. In our master plan, we talk about trails and utilizing all that stuff, right?
Right, another thing I wanted to mention, they talked that those plans aren't coordinated. We have 17 meetings, but also we work with the planner going through open space, land conservancy properties. We actually go through and categorize all those, and anything that's been added onto the bike path or open space, that goes in each plan. But we have to touch base with all those committees, whether it's through community development, and the planner comes in once a week, and as we're going through those plans, and the bike path, there's the bike path plan that's been in there, it used to be done by the road committee, and now there's the new group that's the bicycle and trail committee. They sent us recommendations, and those are also included in the master plan. So I just didn't want people to think it was done separately from what goes on with all the different committees and commissions, because they're all inventoried in the master plan, and most of the acreages and the school facilities and all the facilities we've added on to Water's Edge or the farm or the airport or the bike paths, those are, it took a year and a half to do that. I'm not saying we coordinate all those, but we list what their mission is and how we cooperate with them. So I kind of get a little bothered by that, because the rec commission takes so much time to make sure we do it.
I remember working in years past the Nature and Land Conservancy, even about trying to do that all along behind Bellevue and stuff like that too. Are they involved in the open space though? Nature and Land?
No, they might have a representative, but for grants and those type of persons, we have to keep track of what the Bike Path Committee is doing, the Conservancy is doing, because they need our support if they go out and want to purchase land and preserve it. All that has to be, otherwise we miss out. So.
Yes,
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what does the Nature and Land Conservancy, that is gone by the airport, right?
that the property that the Nature Conservancy, Grosse Ile Nature and Land Conservancy stewarded at the airport now belongs to the federal government and is part of the Fish and Wildlife or Department of Interior. And I think the Conservancy still does some stewardship of the property for them under their permission or guidelines. I do believe that that Department of Fish and Wildlife has plans to open the site because it's part of the International Wildlife Refuge, but I don't have any details on that. So it's no longer, it no longer belongs to the township or is stewarded by the Nature Conservancy.
Okay, thanks.
And Walt, the Recreation Master Plan is online at groseile.com.
So anyone can see it?
Yes.
So what I wanted to add about the lack of a trail policy is I think the Open Space and Greenways Committee worked very hard and long-term on putting something like this together. I believe that they did a lot of research and due diligence, and what pushed the whole question in the first place was residents would come to that committee with plans to build or have a trail not really developed, because mostly they were asking for existing trails to be refined, and there was no real process in place. There was a lot of conversation back and forth between the committee and the board, and Cliff St. Pierre was a noble liaison. He took everything back and forth. And it was very long process, several years in the making. I think one of the things during the board meeting that changed the course of events was that in the introduction to, or the history of the proposal of the motion, it talked about a survey that the committee had done 10, 12 years ago, and how during that survey, a majority of the residents of Grosse Ile did not want trails developed in open space. And so one or more of the trustees asked, why are we looking into developing trails when clearly the majority of residents at this point did not want that? And from there, it was pretty much
Downhill from there.
oh, yeah, and there was a lot of resident comment, a lot of board comment, and it ended in a tie vote. Mr. Ranka was absent from that meeting. He was excused. I have a feeling this will come back. There was a concern that maybe we had put the cart before the horse, and putting together a policy for the construction or proposal of trails before we even had a policy for the use or an ordinance for the use and management of trails. So again, I think it was just a very confused and awkward, and I think a lot of people were let down by that, and for that I apologize.
All right, well, I don't think you have to apologize.
Well, I again, sometimes these things, they've happened to us here too. The meeting kind of gets, you realize you didn't cover all your bases, or that maybe something came to the board before it was ready to go.
Yeah, but we always blame Ethel.
Yeah. That's right, today is Blame Ethel Day. No.
Right, Ethel? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
Mike.
just have a question for Leah and a report. I just read in the paper that there was a significant purchase of open space land. Could you comment on that so I understand?
I read the same article, and I'm trying to remember where that purchase is. Does
That's
anybody-
over by, down across the middle school, isn't it?
Yes.
From the elementary school.
It's across from, it's across from the elementary school, and it's been completed by the office manager and approved by the board. That's all I know.
It's making a big piece of land whole, isn't it,
Yeah.
basically?
We own the open space on both sides of this long parcel. It's long and narrow, and it's something that the board, actually, it spans several boards, have been interested in, and Dale was simply acting under the board's direction. He negotiated on our behalf at our recommendation, and we believe that this now completes a very large, substantial piece of open space, and actually will make a nice natural area for the township. And I know there is interest in this property too, because it provides access between Meridian and East River. It goes all the way through. And so again,
Remember how many acres that was? Wasn't it a lot?
That sounded big.
it's fairly big. I'm sorry, I don't have
It
the,
was a double digit, like, but I don't remember.
yeah, I don't have that
Like
on
more than
my,
20, right? Or something, right? It was huge.
I'm thinking 40,
yeah.
I'm thinking 47, but don't hold me to it.
Okay, so it was big. All right. All right, anything
Right,
more
thank you.
for open space?
Yes, thanks for asking.
All right, moving on. Marina swales.
Just to have a brief report tonight, as Tim mentioned, the Marina walkthrough is going to be Saturday, March 10th at 11:15 a.m. Dock Master Bob Lang and Community Recreation Director Tim Rooney and myself and anyone from the board is welcome to join us, as well as anyone from the community and especially the Marina. I'd love to see as many people down there as possible, because it looks like we'll do our walkthrough and quickly submit back to you, Tim, to the budget, the work we need done this spring, which you've already told me you've got money in the budget, but want to be sure we cover specifics. So any
Sure.
Marina members, welcome to join us. Just to note, water levels are very high this winter in the Great Lakes and the Detroit River, which is great for boating. It's reported that gas prices will be very high this summer, which will be bad for boating.
I've got a sailboat for
Yeah,
sale.
it's got a sailboat, yeah. There's a lot of boats for sale.
I don't. So.
I just wanted to comment that sadly, we lost a longtime member of the Marina. A good friend of ours, Danny Walters, passed away in December. He's kept one or two boats at our Marina for over 20 years, and his family kept their boats there for many years prior to that. Danny was a Commodore at West River Yacht and Cruising Club in 1990, and he'll be greatly missed at the Marina. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Any questions for Mike? All right, moving on. Senior citizens. My favorite, Ethel Yops.
Very short tonight, Walter.
Okay. Just repeat those dates a couple times for Leah.
Yes, sir.
Is your mic on?
Excuse me?
Is your mic on?
I thought it was.
Just to come into it.
It's on. Okay. All I want to say is we're continuing to collect foods for the Sacred Heart Food Bank, and we're hoping that everyone on the island will contribute to all of these through the churches. Our February 28th meeting will be at Sharky's Restaurant, beginning with coffee and donuts at 11:15. It was moved from the farm due to the election. And Wednesday, March the 7th, at 12:30 p.m., the Centennial Farm Recreation Department sponsored St. Patrick's Day celebration is $12 per person. Corned beef and cabbage will be the main dish. Lots of music and prizes, and it's always a fun party. Advance tickets at the Recreation Office at Water's Edge, 675-2364. And you should all come. It's a great time. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethel. Any questions for Ethel? So we got February 28th at Sharky's, 11:15 for one of your, what was that for?
That's for our regular meeting, the second meeting of the month, which is the fourth Tuesday.
Okay, and then the St. Patty's festivities on March 7th at 12:30, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Playscape. Ann.
I contacted Chief Porcelli's office this afternoon to discuss getting some information about surveillance for the Playscape, and we're looking at getting together early next week. That's it.
All right, any questions for Ann? All right, extended public comment, no public comment. Individual commissioner comments. We'll start down there with Mr. Rooney first.
I have none.
Ethel,
Nothing, thank you.
Ann,
No, nothing here.
Leah,
I'm done.
Uta.
Sorry, I can't continue the run there, But at Transportation Bonanza 3, two things. The good news was that the state of Michigan is now mandating to MDOT that all state streets are complete streets or are considered as complete streets, meaning that they take into account non-motorized vehicles as well as motorized. And so if you've driven down or up I-275, you'll see that there's a bike path under construction right alongside, that this is a national trend and the state is adopting this. The bad news is that in the House of Representatives in Washington, they apparently removed all provisions for grants to non-motorized vehicular travel in the transportation bill. So they're trying to get that reinstated or at least added to the Senate bill. And then NPR on Marketplace, American Public Radio, put together American Public Media made a report, and they talked about high-tech companies and their CEOs and where they're locating their headquarters. And one of the things that they look for is communities with bike paths and sidewalks that enable non-motorized communication. And one of the companies, they actually interviewed the CEO, picked a community that actually had all that in place, and they have like 4,000 employees, and they moved into a smaller community because their young, highly educated tech workforce is looking for that kind of, absolutely. So, if we're looking for a marketing opportunity, my gosh, we're ready for that, and our community is on the forefront.
All right. Thank you. Mike, anything to add?
Sure, I just want to urge all our residents to vote next Tuesday. Our form of government is a democracy, and it's very important that you vote. And last of all, I'd like to wish my condolences to our Chief Porcerelli's family for the loss of their father. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'd like to add, please volunteer in the committee, and a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Uta, second.
Second.
Ethel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night and have a pleasant evening.